Okay, dear friends, today we have the first time that our master class shifts to the name Meaningful Conversations. And the reason why we changed the name is that somehow I thought that calling the session a master class made the guest of honor, like today we have Tiago de Andrade Horta, become a professor and everyone else quiet. So I thought if I call it Meaningful Conversations, more people will engage. And the intention today is to have a debate, to have a discussion, and to have questions and answers, to have a participation. The idea is not to have a professorial model format, but an open discussion. So I thank you all for being here, but especially Tiago. I wanted to, before he shares his presentation and his bio, I wanted to say that I met Tiago in Brasilia um, during the month of August this year. So it's very recent. But I have been tracking and following him on LinkedIn for some time. He's been on the spot for many, many uh, months, I would say, since he started involving himself years ago with ethics and the debate of ethics in sports. And as he will present, you'll see that he's um, very well connected to entities that are pioneering the discussion of ethics in sports in Brazil and elsewhere. But now, and I ask him to indulge me and come today to discuss specifically the betting situation in Brazil. These companies that are starting to work with Brazilian sports, particularly football. And he was kind enough to accept. We will share this presentation later with other members of the company, but the idea is to open a debate because some people have been suggesting that we might benefit from approaching the bets, the companies, and maybe have them as investors, which is something very unlikely because we have minors in the platform. But that's why we want to have a debate, a discussion, and that's why I am very glad to have Tiago Horta here. Tiago, could you now share your bio so I can introduce you formally, and then I will give the floor to you, and you have as much time as you need. But of course, just reminding everyone, usually these presentations, they intend to finish in 1 hour and 30 minutes, including the discussion. So Tiago will have enough time to present. The theme is, of course, the debate about the ethics and the impact of the regulation of sports betting and its impacts on integrity. Thank you for going back, Tiago. Okay, Tiago Horta Barbosa is head of integrity for Latin America at Genius Sport. He's a professional with over 20 years of experience, extensively involved in the fields of public safety and international cooperation. Previously, he served as criminal police officer at OIPC Interpol from 2012 to 14. I know he chose not to mention, but is also from the Brazilian Federal Police. And Tiago holds a bachelor degree in international relations and law, and he has a postgraduate degree in management and sports law and master in sports law. He has also been notably active in the sports legal sector since 2015, where he concentrates in sports integrity matters with a particular focus on the prevention and combat of match fixing. Tiago previously held the position of prosecutor at the STJD, the Superior Court of Sports Justice for football, and auditor at the Court of Sports Justice for Anti-Doping. This is a theme that we have someone very close to participating in our call today. I'm going to introduce him later, and as well as occupying seats in various ethics and integrity committees. So without further ado, and without extending this, although I know his resume wouldn't fit in 2 or 3 pages alone, but Tiago, thank you very much for being here. If you want to make a brief presentation before you start with your formal slides, feel free to come in and out of the share mode as much as you want. And everyone else, guys, Tiago was told that we will have questions for him, so please make sure you take note of any points that you would like to come back later, rather than perhaps interrupting, but unless the pres of Tiago likes to be interrupted. But anyway, so Tiago, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here. Go on, and we are looking forward to see what you share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks for your kind words and also for the invitation to be here talking to you guys. It's a pleasure to have the possibility of sharing some insights regarding the the newly regulated Brazilian market. Actually, it's not completely regulated yet. We are in filling a way, especially in this year 2024, sorry. And I'll be showing this to you during my presentation. And well, it's a pleasure. So that the way I'm doing here, I'll present to you some slides showing you some general information about what's going on, about what we have now, some timeline also. So to the point that we are at this moment, in a way that you, of course, can introduce your questions and we can make some kind of debate here. I think the regulation subject by itself, it's a very sensitive matter. It's there's a lot of discussion going on here in Brazil nowadays about this, especially in these last weeks. There's a lot of situations that has been pointed by some society sectors and also some police operations dealing with some problems, and all this is making some negative impact through the regulation process which is going on since the end, since last year, we can say since 2023, which was when they started drafting the law that that's now was published in December 2023, and it's now being regulated by Ministry of Economy here in Brazil, so Ministry of Finance, sorry. Well, but there's a lot, that's a lot going on, and I'll present to you a few things, and then we can go on with more discussion. So I think it's important to present this timeline so you guys can be situated about what took us to the moment to which we are living now. So the fact people sometimes don't remember, because this has been a long time ago. Most people were not even born in 1946, but it's important to be aware that in 1946 or until 1946, gambling in Brazil was a legal practice. We used to have casinos here. We have all activities related to gambling, not only legalized but also regulated. So everything was working perfectly. Even it was an economy sector which provided, according to some numbers that we were able to find, like 60,000 people worked in this industry, which with 71 casinos operating in the entire country. So it was an important part of the economy. Brazil is a very conservative country in most ways, and one of the myths that surrounds the prohibition of the gambling here in Brazil in 1946 It's over this woman there called Carmela Dutra. She was the wife of the president of Brazil at that year, Enrico Gaspar Dutra, and she was a very Catholic woman, and this the people says that she is the one who convinced him to establish this Decreto Lei number 9215, which prohibited the gambling in Brazil from now on because of because of her morality. She said that gambling was a big problem. This was something that was not a good thing for the moral of the country and everything. And well, there is no proof that this was the only reason for that happening. But what we know is that the society, in a way, at that time, was like making pressure so that they could prohibit the gambling in Brazil, similar to what we have now with the some society sectors now screaming against the regulation of the betting market and maybe of the gambling, which is also under discussion in our country. So this is interesting. And then after 1946, what happened in Brazil is that gambling became considered like a contravention, not a crime. It's different because a crime usually is for more, well, how we can say, for more for worse things that take place in the society. Those are nominated as crime. When there is some delicts, but it was not so harmful, then they qualify that as a contravention. And we have a law in Brazil, which is from 1941. It's before this year, which is the law of contravention. So there you have what is considered a contravention in Brazil. And from 1946, they included gambling in this law. So since then, gambling is considering a contravention in our country. Then 2000 or the years 2000 after that, we had some phenomena going on in the world that started provoking a lot of changes on this stuff. I can say that globalization, internet, and online betting are rising, especially sports betting, are things that started right in the beginning of this century and made things change about how people dealt with gambling all over the world. And also it started making some provoking this movement here in Brazil as well. Like in 2005, it's very interesting because we had a case here in Brazil of match manipulation, which was very similar to other cases that were going on in the world. So there was a referee here who was manipulating some football matches of our Serie A tournament, our main competition here. And he was doing that for betting purposes. He was getting money from some mafia guys, and those guys were financing him to produce some fake results inside the field. And those guys, and even him, the referee, could make some money in the betting market. I'm 2005. It's funny because this year, we here in Brazil, we didn't talk too much about sports betting. It was a very rare thing. We probably had a few betting operators, probably most of them operating from outside, that created some initial websites here in Brazil to offer this kind of service. And then suddenly we had a referee involved in a situation like this, but it was considered like an isolated case in Brazil. And actually, we didn't hear much about online betting for a few years. The big change that we have from after what happened in 2005 was regarding our criminal law, because at that time, match manipulation, match fixing was not considered a crime here in Brazil. So that referee, he could, although he was sued in a civil area, and also he was banned from refereeing in the sports field for his life. In the criminal side, he got no sanction, because at the end, the justice court here in Brazil, they understood that what that guy had made at that time was not considered a crime. So in 2010, that's when our Congress Congress finally voted a law which transformed match fixing in a crime. So now those who eventually gets involved in match fixing, they can be sued by as criminals, as at least to respond in the criminal sphere, which is a big advance from in comparison to what we had in 2005, but still is something pending of results, because what I can tell you is that until now, almost 15 years after we have that law, we have no criminal convictions here in Brazil for match fixing. We have some sports convictions, disciplinary convictions, but no criminal conviction, at least not in the final instance. We have one conviction in the first degree, but no convictions in the final instance. So this is something that's still going on. But going to 2015, that year, what is important here is that remember I was telling you about the contravention law of 1946. But then at that time, until 2015, gambling on online gambling was not considered, because it was something new. It was not considered a contravention as the other ones that we had. So, like, if you go make some gambling in the streets, like some what I say, some casinos that worked without permission. Those was the ones that were considered like contraventions. Like jogo do bicho is something that very traditional that we have here in Brazil. This is contravention. But online betting, that was not considered that in 2015. So there was a lot of people already at that time, yes, after 10 years after the scandal of 2005, in 2015, yes, we already had a lot of people using internet to bet here in Brazil, especially considering that in the country we don't have physical places to bet. So people were really using those online bettings, but usually those online bookmakers, they operated from abroad, from other countries, from countries like Curacao, other places. And then, although they included this prohibition in the contravention law in 2015, so from 2015 online betting also became prohibited. There was a big discussion here, because those bookmakers, as I told you, they operated offshore. So the discussion was, where is the betting happening? Okay, the guy who's betting, he is in Brazil, but the bookmaker is in Curacao, or is in England, or is in Malta, is whatever. So is this really taken by the contravention law, or we should consider that this person is betting outside Brazil? This was a transnational discussion, which until now we can say, but let's consider until 2023, which is what really mattered for 8 years. We never had a final answer to that, a final decision about what if that was a transnational contravention, or if that was not a contravention anyway. So this is what the scenario we had in 2015. So what you can notice from 2015 in what regards to in what has to do with online betting is that we started having a very gray scenario here in Brazil. Things started becoming very without clear answers on what was legal and what was illegal. And then in 2018, we had the complement of this scenario of indefinition, because this is when in the end of this year, we had the President Michel Temer here. One of his last acts of the last acts of his government was publishing the law 13758, which legalized sports betting and set a price of 4 years for its regulation. So he legalized it in the end of his government and said to the next president, okay, now you have a 4 year period to regulate sports betting. However, the last president that we had here, Jair Bolsonaro, he was very, although his finance minister was considered a very liberal guy, and I'm pretty sure that he was willing to probably willing to regulate betting, the betting market, so he could collect the taxes. In the other side, that government had a very strong base formed by conservative people, people who claims that they're family defenders, that they are like all in the church, things like this. And the pressure from those sectors never let that government really work in order to start regulating the betting market. So the truth is that we had a 4 year period and nothing was done at that time. So and then what we had from 2018 on was sports betting, sports online betting was now considered something legalized, but at the same moment we didn't have rules on how it should work. And then what we had in Brazil from that moment on was a big mess, which is the mess that we have until now. We have a lot of bookmakers, operators, even some of them situated here in Brazil, most of them who are provenient from the Jogo do Bicho or Bicheiros, the way we call here. And the bicheiros also started to exploit the sports betting market, not only online, because they also had some physical points which they started like to offering sports betting. So the scenario that was built after 2018, we can say it was a very complicated scenario, which is the scenario that we still have now. So 2022, the deadline was not accomplished. And then finally, in 2023, when the new government came up, they had to change the original law, because the law originally said that there was a 4 year period for regulation, which didn't come. So they had to extend that period. And then the new government, which is now of President Lula and the Ministry of Finance, Fernando Haddad, they finally put themselves on disposal to really work for regulation. And then finally, in December of 2023, we had the law which regulates sports betting. And that law established that the year of 2024 would be kind of a transition year, a year in which, because it's not just publishing a law, the law doesn't contain all the instruments or the tools on how the regulated market is going to operate. It's a lot of matters that compose the regulated market, and that must be discussed. And all of those areas, they need new regulations. So here is a few important points about law 1470 90. Here, the first one about licensing and authorization of operators. They established a clear and rigorous licensing process for betting operators. The law defines specific criteria that companies must meet to obtain a license, including demonstrating financial solvency, operational integrity, and compliance with security regulations. The process is designed to ensure that only reliable and well-structured operators can participate in the Brazilian regulated market promoted consumers' trust. So the thing here is that now, for instance, all the betting operators that aim to operate here in Brazil, they must establish their offices here in Brazil. So all of them are working on this at this moment because from those who get to be approved by December until December 31st and wants to keep operating in Brazil from January 1st ahead, they will need to have an office here in Brazil, a legal representative, compliance, everything. And all this is to guarantee that the government and they have access to the betting operators. By the way, it's like the Twitter problem that we had here in Brazil recently. Twitter just said, "Oh, we won't have a representative in Brazil," and then our supreme minister he said, "Okay, so you cannot work in Brazil because you don't have a representative." And then they all companies, even those that are multinational betting companies, they will need to establish an office here in Brazil with a full a bunch of employees, a representative, and also with showing that they have financial capability uh, uh, to to provide their operations, to pay the prices and everything that comes with that. Customer protection is another important point that's is treated by the is considered in the law. So the law emphasizes that by introducing measures to ensure responsible gaming practice, these include requiring operators to implement self-exclusion mechanisms where players can voluntarily exclude themselves from betting and enforcing betting limits to prevent problematic gaming behavior. Additionally, operators must provide clear and transparent information about betting odds and the risks involved. This is interesting because this is exactly one of the things that's being claimed now by the society, but this is being treated in the regulation. This is in the law, and this is also in the portarias, which is the regulations provided by the Ministry of Finance, which are being created. So this is all being considered, and this is a very important part of the regulation. There is no explanation for why are we creating a regulated market if it's no purpose on protecting the consumer, and the idea is protecting them. Another key point here is it has to do with money laundering and terrorism financing prevention. This is also considered by the law. So the betting operators must implement policies and procedures to monitor and report suspicious activities, including verifying player identities, monitoring financial transactions, collaborating with regulatory and law enforcement authorities. Taxation and revenue collection. This is I'm pretty sure that this is the main reason why we are regulating the market. This was the government really wanted. They wanted the taxes. And then this is a crucial aspect of the law. The law defines a tax model aimed at maximizing economic benefits for the Brazilian government while imposing a fair tax burden on operators. And here was a big discussion because this is the idea is okay, the government needs the tax to be paid, but you cannot create taxes in a way that will not invite the betting operators to be part of the market in a way that, oh no, they will make their evaluations and they say, no, it's better for me to keep outside because the way that the government is doing, I'm not gaining anything. And what the general idea that we have now is that the calculation made by the government to establish the taxes was good, and this is mainly taking in consideration the number of bookmakers, that betting operators that are applying to operate in the Brazilian to get the license to operate in the Brazilian regulated market from January 1st ahead. So this is an important thing. The taxes is a crucial thing here. The government is totally aware that regulating the market is one of the important things here, is exactly getting this money, the money that people were betting, that the betting operators were gaining, and they were not paying anything to the government. They were not paying anything to the government, so the government can use that money to apply in the education system, in the health system, also to help addicted people who are dealing with gambling, which we already have, in spite of not having a regulated market. So this is an important part here. Also, what has to do to advertising and market, there is a lot of rules about this as well, and also monitoring and supervision. So regulatory authorities are empowered to audit operators, conduct investigations, and impose sanctions in cases of no compliance. So they should be part of monitoring and supervising betting activities in what has to do with not only to keep the market safety, but also to protect sports as well. So there is one of the the obligations that the betting operators who want to get the license have to accomplish is that they must be part of an organization that monitors betting markets with a purpose of sport integrity. So this is something that they must need to do. So the government, from what we can see here, is that at least my perspective here, my perspective here at this moment is that the law was created with a look in lots of the issues that we had, in a way to provide some solutions. And I think that the work that the Ministry of Finance has been doing on this, not only with the law but with the following regulations, has been very good. Of course, that the result that of this, we will start seeing this in the next year when the things really start working. And of course, we are all aware that some adjustments will probably be needed, because it's impossible to believe that a regulated market that is born like this in 2 years is already perfect. No, there will be some regulation, some adjustments to be made. So as I told you before, 2024 we are living a transition year, and this is a period very crucial, because all this the other regulations are being implemented as well. What we had until now is that 152 bookmakers already requested the license to operate in the Brazilian market starting from next year. It's important to mention that from tomorrow ahead, tomorrow is October 1st, only the operators who are requesting the license are allowed to keep operating in the Brazilian market, which means that from tomorrow ahead, all those who didn't request a license will be prohibited of operating in Brazil. This is an important thing. This was one of the last changes that the finance ministry did. There was a reason for that. It was the public pressure about the regulation of betting, about the sector. There was some recent police operations against the market, and the government felt like they needed to give an answer, not to wait until January 1st so the regulated market start operating, and then they decided, no, only those who are already applying for the license will be allowed to operate from October 1st ahead. This is an important measure, and tomorrow we will already see that the government today, Fernando Haddad, our finance ministry, considered an interview in which he said that the expectation is that around 500 to 600 betting operators did not require this license and are operating in the Brazilian market, and that they will start persecuting those guys. They will start to try to drop their connections, their websites and everything. So 152 bookmakers, those who get to be approved will need to pay a 300 million fee to operate for 5 years. So at every 5 years, they will need to renew this amount. The expectation is that the government, only with this authorization fee, imagining that around 100 bookmakers of those 152 will get the license. So the expectation here is something around 3 billion reais of collection only with the authorization, the licensing fee. And I'm not talking here about the taxes that will come after that. So there is a considerable money for the government, considering the betting, this new betting market, what they are gonna pay. So with expectations that by 2025 the regulatory environment will be fully established, betting operators must comply with the new regulations and obtain the necessary license to legally operate in the coming months. So they're doing this, and as I mentioned earlier, starting from tomorrow, they will not be allowed. Those who are not trying to get the license will not be allowed to operate anymore. And then 2025 onwards, the idea is that those bookmakers will be authorized. Only those who are authorized by the government will be operating in Brazil. Just a few numbers. I promised, I know, Nisam, I promised to you that I would bring some more numbers here. But the fact is,
Thank you. Thank you. But
yeah, but
now that you mentioned my name, I have to interrupt you.
okay.
When you said 300 million, I think you meant 30 million, because 300 million times 100 is not 3 billion.
Sorry, 30,000,
30
30,
million.
30, 30 million. No, it's 30 million, yeah?
Yeah,
Fee.
you said 300. 30 million means,
Sorry, 30 million fee. This is what each one has to pay. And if we multiply this for 100, we have 3 billion reais.
yeah,
This is
it's
what we have. Okay?
yeah, so it's 30 million, just to have an idea, $6 million per
Yeah.
license. Per
License for
license
5 years.
for 5 years. 213 companies have applied. If 100 of them,
152 applied. This is
150,
I checked the list today,
okay,
earlier
152,
today.
then if 100 invest in this license, there will be $500 million of invest
Yeah,
of
we should consider now that 152 applied, but uh, the government probably will not authorize give the license to all of them, because they have to accomplish a lot of demands, and I doubt that all of them will do that. And after they are approved by the government, they will have to pay this tax. And the truth is that they were. This is an interesting thing here, because uh, we were aware that lots of those bookmakers, they were operating now in Brazil with the expectation of collecting this money to pay this tax by the end of the year. But as I told you, starting from tomorrow, there will be like some of them will not be allowed to operate anymore, and even those who are applying, there are some of them that they apply with one account, but they use other accounts which are not allowed, and then those which are not allowed will be prohibited, and they maybe will not be able to collect all the money. So making a just considering this factor, what we estimate is that something around 90 to 100 bookmakers will get the license and will be able to pay this fee. The other ones, they will not be allowed to operate in the Brazilian market. So going to some numbers here, this is one important thing here. I brought this one because it's the only one that I found more trustful, and I found it interesting, the fact that Brazil is already being considered like the second biggest sports betting market in the world, in a moment in which we are still starting dealing with betting, with like online betting in discussing it in a regulated way. So it's amazing, because it became popular, I can say 5 years ago to now, because before that it was not so popular. And now we estimate, or this source here, they estimate that Brazil is already the second place where you have more people like gambling in sports in the world, even a bigger market than the UK, which is a very traditional one. Okay, we are our population is much bigger than UK, but we also know that our economy is not as strong as theirs. So it's kind of a strange thing. I didn't bring the numbers about the number, which there's been a lot of a war of numbers here in Brazil now on who is betting classes A, B, C. What's the number? How is the amount of money that people are betting? But the truth is that I couldn't see those numbers as liable, especially because we are dealing with an unregulated market still. It's very difficult to establish that. I'm as you told me, as you told in the beginning, I worked in the federal police for more than 20 years. So it's like, how can we establish the amount of cocaine that is trafficked from from Brazil to another country? We don't know. We just have control over the drug that we are able to collect, to apprehend. But we don't know the number. We just estimate the number of drugs that go, and we have no control over that. And I think that's a lot of what's going on here in Brazil. There is no real control on what's going on, and the numbers are not so trustful, which is still a big problem. Well, here I just put here some to foment our discussion, some aspects of or impacts of the betting market about what's being regulated here in Brazil. So tax revenue is a positive aspect, the creation of jobs, attraction of foreign investment, and the customer protection. And in the other side, we have a risk of addiction, debt accumulation, social impact in a lot of ways, and money laundering increase due to the increase of also of the betting market. So we have positive aspects, and of course we have negative aspects that we will need to deal with. Looking in sports, and especially to football, some positive aspects of that. We have some increased revenue for clubs and leagues. The truth is that nowadays in Brazil, it's very difficult to think in our sports industry, especially if in the case of if at some point now we just forbid betting operators of providing of sponsoring football clubs, for instance, we would bring some collapse to the football industry. This could not be done at once, because the truth is that now our sports here in Brazil are completely dependent of that. Of course, this is not good. The dependency is not good, but in another way, at least they are giving more the possibility of our clubs to compete with the international market in a way, because betting operators were already sponsoring clubs in other countries and not here in Brazil, and now they are also in Brazil, so they're providing money. So we have an enhanced fan engagement. People, in a way, they engage more with sports due to betting as well, and the improved sports media coverage. As negative aspects, we have over commercialization, financial instability for athletes, and this is an issue that really worries me, because we have news of athletes who are gambling and who are involved not only with gambling but also with match manipulation, and of course this is a problem. It's not totally related to it's not related to the regulated market, but it's related to betting, and this is a big problem. And undermining sports integrity, because once you have betting, especially betting sponsoring clubs, sponsoring tournaments, there are some sectors in the society that believe that the perception of them of the fairness in sport can be diminished because of this participation of the betting market in sport. So this is a true thing that we have to deal with. As I told you, Nathan, just so you can know, I brought you an example about the Canadian Soccer League. into 2022, this league was had 42% of its games considered fixed, of almost half of all the games played in this league. So this league completely collapsed. Now you have another league there in Canada. I think it's called the Canadian Premier League, because this one here was completely failed after what happened in 2012. Of course, this just happened because there was a completely lack of protection of sports authorities and of government about not only about the betting problem, but especially about uh, that the involvement of people with of clubs and everything, and the players with organized crime, and those who are really manipulating matches. And another thing, I don't know, at least the last information that I have is that in Canada, you don't have specific provisions in your criminal code to deal with match manipulation. In 2012, you didn't have, and I think until now, you don't have. So in Canada, possibly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the information that I have. Match manipulation is not considered a crime, which is a big problem and something totally not comprehensible, and that you guys should deal with. And now, just to finalize and to provoke and start the the debate, and already sorry for all the time that it took from my side here, but still, why regulating sports betting is important, is necessary, we can say. We can define four possible scenarios for the betting, considering the betting landscape. So a first scenario would be sports betting is considered illegal, it's prohibited everywhere, and no one bets. This would be the ideal scenario, but this is also Alice in the Wonderland. This doesn't exist. It's impossible to have a scenario like this in which you consider betting. You can consider it illegal, but you will not be able to prohibit everywhere. And in a world where we have globalization, you will also always have people betting in the events from other places. So it's impossible. This is a dream. This doesn't exist. Then we have a second scenario, in which sports betting is still considered illegal, but people bet anyway. This is what I'm telling you. This is what really happened, which is a big problem. Then we have a third scenario in which sports betting is considered legal but not regulated. This is the scenario that we have here in Brazil since 2018 until the end of this year, and this is also a completely mess. It doesn't help because you need to have it legalized, and you also need to have the rules on how it's gonna be. Otherwise, you have all the problems that we are facing here. You have no support to consumers. You have no support to the industry of betting. The government gets no revenue from taxes and everything. So this doesn't work. And then we have a fourth scenario, which I myself consider is the ideal one, which is a scenario in which sports betting is legal and, of course, regulated with proper rules which allows us to have control over the operation, control over the betting operators, and also protect the consumers, the customers, about the entire situation. So, and the government can also profit from that. I think this is the only possible scenario that we should consider here. But still, this is only my opinion, and I would like to hear from you guys also if you agree, or maybe you just consider that prohibiting is the best solution. Please feel free to comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tiago. I think it's a great material you shared, and it certainly is good food for thought, and we will certainly have some questions. And in order to start, I don't know if there's someone already raising the hand. I saw some people moving in the chair, which shows that some people are not feeling comfortable. But I think that the way you closed it almost says that there's no way to stop it because it's kind of deterministic. The way you said number one, two, and three is almost unavoidable. Um, and 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 I think the perspective of what betting can do to a society, it depends not only on the betting side, but what the society has as culture and control over a lot of things. For instance, let's say beverage. Beverage alcohol is not considered a drug, but the beverage industry does not stop lobbying, so nobody correlates car accidents with alcohol. It's funny, but we all know that Brazil has one of the highest number of dead people because of traffic. And we all know that most of these guys are drunk. But because of the lobby of the big industry that is making lot of money and giving a lot of taxes, nobody correlates these two numbers. So I think we should abstract a little bit. And I have a new question here. I think you clearly showed that it's almost unavoidable. I have a question. Do we need betting? I mean, is our life becoming better if we have betting? Because people will always bet, as you said. You know, they turn to their friends watching TV and say, I bet my team will win. That's betting. But what happens if you become addicted to that? Mostly nothing. The problem is if we could become addicted to sitting on the living room and betting nonstop the whole day, which is what some people are doing. So I wanted just to make these comments and maybe have some of you debating. And as I said, we have Mr. Klein here, which is a friend that I invited. He's not a member of the company, but I wanted him to be here because Marco Aurelio is a very known person in the realm, in the sports industry, particularly because he pushed forward a very strong agenda to regulate other kind of things, which he will probably share with you later, which is the doping. And he was the president of the first agency that anti-doping in Brazil. I thought it's nice to see his opinion as well. Maybe Mr. Klein, if you wanted to start with your opinion, or Bruno, we have two lawyers here. Bruno Carra in Brazil and Ariane here in Toronto. I would also like to see what the lawyers think. Mr. Klein, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Um, well, I think it's prohibited, is unthinkable. It's impossible. I think Tiago is sure, and we have lots of examples in the US, including with the prohibition in the question of the alcohol, just
Didn't work.
just improved, yes, just improved the mafia movement. And so I think the problem is the dimension that the bets acquire in Brazil, in sports television and clubs. And so I think the question is, people is not betting just for some way to enjoy the sports or really fans. People is betting because people is believing in that it's possible to change their life and put all the money and improving many problems in the health area. And so I think that it's bets is reality. I think the bets came to the Brazil, arrived to stay, but the regulation until now is very, very think, I don't know the proper word, is fragile. And so people is putting the money of the food. Someone said, like a few days ago, someone said people is betting your lunch to lose your dinner. And so I think the question is the principal competitions in Brazil, the main clubs in Brazil, and the sports, television, and newspapers, and all the people who are talking about a specific football, is in a people committed with the bets. And so this is out of control, in my view. And so I think bets is a reality, arrived to stay, as I said, but the, the, the regulation is so fragile. And so government maybe makes some money from bets and spend much more money in the health system and to help people, not only poor people or average people or rich people. It's not about this. It's not about on a question of just economics. It's just as is. I think you know that in English football, the Premier League just established some measures to 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 fight the importance of the bets at the Premier League, including the shirts of the Premier League clubs. In Brazil now, the trophy has a bet, and the clubs, and you saw in football on TV, you saw all the communication. It's a mess. Two, three, four, 10, a dozen of different bets companies, many of them probably with no conditions to operate in Brazil. People don't know. And so this linked with the organized crime and the washing money and traffic. And so I think the very good presentation from Tiago, my compliments, Tiago, very good presentation, is prohibited is not the way. It's too late for this. It's like, as I said, the prohibition. It's like the drugs. The combat to the drugs. It's a combat. Only the poor people goes to the jail and families are destroyed. But people, the problem is not the favelas. No? The problem is people who is using the drugs, the cocaine or the marijuana or the cigars or the alcohol. And so I think the problem is not sports betting, is sports betting as a solution, a paradise for everyone, for clubs, for sports, or for poor people. That's the problem in my point of view. Thank you for the opportunity to share some.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to take opportunity just to go off of what Mr. Klein said to ask a question. Tiago, muito obrigado por participar. Thank you so much for giving us your time today so generously. Thinking of Brazil as sort of a more recent space where betting has grown. I wonder if there are a couple questions I have. One of them is I wonder if there is a conversation being had in Brazil about providing education to the consumers of these platforms, and whether the law and regulation is looking only at the companies and the corporate regulation, or whether there's law or conversations happening in Brazil right now that also target education. And I'm also curious to know, looking to maybe the countries where sports betting has been more established, like the States or in the UK for a longer period of time. Um, is there something that Brazil can look to? Do they have examples that Brazil should be following in terms of that, in terms of making sure that people aren't, as Marco already said, betting the money that they don't have, um, and that it's in a way that we can avoid some of the more serious social problems that could potentially come with the presence of sports betting.
This is there are some interesting points here. Uh, First, the regulation that we are facing now, this is a process. Of course, that we had a regulation law in the end of 2023, but then there was a need of establishing a lot of other laws, as I told you guys, until we have a regulated market really established. So I respect all the opinions, but I think it's not a matter of being a fragile regulation. It's more like we're still in a transition moment. Of course, there are mistakes in the process, but the fact is that the government, and I know that the people who are working in that there in the Ministry of Finance, it's a very small team that have to deal with a lot of situations here. They have to do with the advertising problem, as you said, with gambling, with the addiction problem, the social issues, health issues. They have to do with money laundering. They have to do with how the market's going to operate, and they are doing that. And from what I see, and then in knowing the goodwill of the people who are there, I can tell you guys that they're trying to do a good job. I reckon that the advertising problem specifically, I agree that's a very big issue. And I think they should anticipate it. And that's what the government is trying to do now. Because, as you guys said, betting should be sold as an entertainment. It can never be sold as an opportunity of getting succeeding in your life. And this is something that happened here, that it still happens, especially through those social influencers and social networks, those people, because they are the regulations are harder to get to those people. But this is something that really happens, and they have to go against that. And the law, the regulations already says that those who advertise betting, they should only advertise that as entertainment, never as a way of succeeding in life or gaining money for as a way of living and things like this. This is not the purpose of it. And they are already starting to attack this, but of course they took a while to do so. The fact is, the anticipation of some of the government actions that were established to start taking place in January 1st, and they anticipated that in 3 months to starting by tomorrow, is exactly to start combating things like this, and also those who are operating here and advertising here without any commitment to social problems that might come from betting. And I really think I'm not a member of the government. Please don't look me at that. But I can tell you from my perspective that they are trying to do a good work there. But of course, it's not from one day to another. This takes a while, and we unfortunately, and this is an issue. As I was when I showed you guys in the presentation, The law was regulated in 2000, in the end of 2018, and it took 4 years with no actions from the previous government. And here we have a gap of 4 or 5 years until the end of 2023 when the law really come. So it was a 5 year gap here that it coincides with exactly the period in which betting became something so popular. Sports betting became something so popular here in Brazil. So what I think is that maybe if the previous government had regulated the betting market, especially in the first 2 years, 2019, 2020, maybe especially it would be before the pandemic period, because that also contributed to people start betting more and more. So maybe if they had done that, but they didn't do, so the problem maybe would not be as big as it is. But we have a problem. We really have a mass of people who are betting. What I see here is, like, for instance, the government established that the credit cards in the law says that credit cards cannot be used for betting purposes. But this was supposed to start only in January 1st. So the government anticipated this measure to start tomorrow as well. And still, what the betting associations here says is that only 3 to 5%, sorry, of the bettors use credit cards to make bets. But still, they are gonna forbid that. They are gonna prohibit that. Another thing is that what we have here is the Bolsa Familia card. They were saying that some people were using the Bolsa Familia, which is support that the government provides to some people with more needs. They were using their cards to bet. And now the government says that they will also prohibit people to use those cards to make bets. And then there is a discussion, a legal discussion, because even though betting should be considered entertainment, some of the money that these people get from the government should be used for their entertainment as well, and they're not being allowed to. So there's a discussion: should they really prohibit using the card, or they should limit the amount that they can use in that thing, you know? But the last movement that came even from our president in the last days is that he's gonna prohibit. The idea is prohibiting the use of the card, of the Bolsa Familia card, so people will not be allowed to use that for betting purpose. But anyway, the thing is, there are some measures that are being taken, and I believe that from the next months, and especially to 2025 ahead, we will have a much more safe market. Of course, it's not going to be a perfect market, because there is no perfect regulated market. There is always be problems. Just what answering what Nathan also said in the beginning of his he asked in the beginning of his when he spoke about comparing that with the beverage things. Although we have a problem, we have to educate people to avoid. We don't say you are prohibited from drinking. We will not say that to people. We will just teach them on, maybe if you want to drink, you should drink in a moderate basis, and if you drink, you should not drive. This is what we do. But still, doing this kind of stuff is a will. It depends on the will of each individual. You cannot like just prohibit them of doing that. But of course, if they do, they will have to deal with the consequences of that if he commits a crime or do something like this. And I think with betting, pretty much, in a way, it's the same. We cannot, we will not be able, as Marco Aurelius said, prohibiting it. It's impossible, because there is too many ways of doing this, even if you prohibit the thing. So you have to deal with people who are doing something wrong anyway. and they will still get addicted, and there is still a lot of things to do so. So the thing is, as you Ariane also said, the thing is educating the consumers, and there is also projects for this. Not only consumers, also educating sports players, football players, because the athletes should also know that they how they have to deal with betting, that they're not allowed to gamble and things like this. So it's a education is a big matter. This is one of the subjects that I talk more here in Brazil. The need of education. We have to education our society, our population, to deal with this in a healthy way, really knowing that this is an entertainment, as going to the movies or watching Netflix or going to a football game, and you can spend some money here on your bet, and they should know about this. And hey, son, betting is not necessary. I totally agree with you. This is not necessary, as beverages are not necessary, but it's something inherent to the human nature as well. People like drinking, and people like betting. I'm sure that you, at some point of your life, during a discussion that you have, you already said, I bet with you this thing here. As a joke,
Yeah,
we all do this kind of thing because it is part of our nature.
part of
So
our
people
nature.
people want people want to have the possibility of betting. Of course, we have to teach them, educate them to do this in a health manner, as an entertainment. And of course, they should all know that this is not a way of living, of a way of getting money.
I agree. I totally agree. It's the reality of things don't work the way we want. They work the way they are. And
Yeah.
I was with a guy with a member of the board of Bradesco. He was telling me that Bradesco has been talking to retail, especially supermarkets, and they said that the retail sector, the retail industry in Brazil, Pão de Açúcar, Walmart, all these companies that sell groceries, they're starting to see the impact of betting on selling less food. That shows that there is a lot of education to be done, because people are stopping to buy food for their families. I mean, I don't mind if a millionaire spends $100,000 in betting, but it's sad. The
This
fact of the
is
matter
this
is
is
some
another
people are,
thing.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you, Nathan, but
go
this
on.
is one of the reasons why I didn't bring the numbers, because the same you're just saying this to me, and I already saw this in a lot of places, and you all some more. I think Marco already mentioned the same thing. Oh, people are not eating because they are betting. What I can tell you is that today, and I'll try to find here the numbers. It says that the retail sector here in Brazil had their best number this last trimester, numbers that they didn't have for a while. So it means that they grew.
Yeah,
That's
retail,
what
not groceries, not
I
groceries.
think I think it's very difficult for us to correlate the
it's
increase of
difficult.
betting with anything like that, and to say if people are spending less money on food, it's because betting is now present.
Exactly, it's difficult to correlate, to say this is the
Mm.
reason why they're not buying a new stove or not buying new clothes because they're betting. It's difficult to make this relation. And
Could also be because of inflation, right? And so we also have inflation that's growing a lot. So many
I
factors
see
to measure.
I see that is and this is something that in a way worries me here. I see there is a big pressure here from the bank sector, and also from the retail sectors here. I don't know if they're really afraid of what's going on, but or if it's just a matter of oh, they are getting our money and now we need to get that back. I don't know. I'm not saying that this is what's going on, but there's a lot of comments on this way as well. So the banks and the retail sectors are complaining because they are afraid of losing consumers. And well, anyway, we know that if we go to the to the market of how do you say, mercado de ações, sorry, I
Stock market.
forgot, the stock market, sorry, we know a lot of problems surrounding that as well. A lot of people who lose money on that, and that's it. It
Yeah.
happens.
In Japan, there's a lot of them that ball in front of the trains and commit suicide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a
I
problem.
think there is a question here from Iraj. Iraj.
Hi, hi everyone. I lost my voice today, so I'm going to speak with some difficulty. I don't have a question, but I want to go back to what you said, Nathan, at the very opening of our discussion. If Link Sports has to have any connection of its brand with betting organizations, that you said, well, I have my doubts. Now, we may have strong feelings personally, as I do. I have very strong feelings against betting. But to answer your question, as a shareholder, I would say, why should Link Sports connect itself to something which is so controversial? Because it's too controversial. If we talk about the social dimensions, it's controversial. If we talk about the health dimensions, it's controversial. But if we talk about let's say, business dimensions, well, the betting companies, be them legal or illegal, we have 600 illegal companies operating in Brazil in the betting. That's what the Minister of Finance said today. So again, then it's again controversial because you're in a way connecting Link Sports name with something that even you don't have control whether it's legal or illegal in terms of the operation. Is it being legally operated or it's illegally operated? So I think that the pros in terms of Link Sport would be very, very small in proportion to the cons that we have regarding even getting close to the idea of having bets, not because we have children, minors, in our platform, but because I think that Link Sports has to have a very strict control in terms of what is ethic, in terms of its operations. And then that's my opinion. I mean, my opinion is given because I have very strong feelings against betting. And that I even, while you were speaking, Tiago, I went to ChatGPT and I asked, what's the difference between betting and gambling? At the end, even ChatGPT is not able to give you a good answer. It says, well, at the end of the day, it's almost the same thing. Because betting is doing something that you may have a perspective or you may assume certain control over the result. But then if you go to the 41% of what you said in Canada, Tiago, of games that were manipulated in their results, I mean, again, you fall into a trap. So I think that the number of traps are so immense in this equation that I would say, better to be away from it and see how this goes for the next many years, and then we may come to another evaluation. But I think it was very important to raise the issue. Thank you, Nathan, for having this vision. Thank you, Tiago, for bringing us, all these perceptions. I think that this last slide is the best one. I mean, you cannot fight against it. That's what also Marco Aurelio said. I mean, if you prohibited it, people will do it anyway. So people are lost now. And I close here my words with one thing that I'm not backing her as a politician, but a very well-known politician, president of a political party in Brazil, said, we didn't know, but we opened the portals of hell. And truly, the portals of hell were open, wide open. And suddenly we are in this mess that is bringing trouble to many people, families, etc., etc. So that's my reflection. Has Link Sports any interest in getting closer to the bet industry? My perception is no. Thank you, and sorry for my voice.
No, thank you so much for your contribution. We still have 7 minutes. I
All
think
right.
we can have.
May
Yeah.
I
Yes, please,
I,
Marco
I
Aurelio,
just
go ahead.
one thing is now we are talking about advertising in the Brazilian first division, second division, championship in Copa do Brasil, but it's a huge problem in the low divisions of the state competitions in second or third division at state of Pará at the north of Brazil on the state of Mato Grosso. And the games of the people don't see at television, games could be manipulated. And I'm serving in the Ethics Commission of Brazilian football. We had a lot of the denounces of the manipulations out of the vision of the people, not on TV, on Palmeiras or Flamengo or Corinthians, but low divisions in low competitions. It's a lot of problem. This problem is coming with another kind of the problems. And so I insist, the problem is not legal and regulated, is you turn on your channel of sports or football television, you will only see bets advertising, bets and beer, BB, timey on television, bets and beer, all the time, all the time, all the time. It's very difficult if some people will think in the appropriate manner how I will spend my money. I think, Tiago, the idea of the government to prohibit the use of the Bolsa Familia card is a good thing in a sense, but it does not work. People will discover, will build, will make any other ways to spend this money if someone is addicted to bet. And so prohibited use of the card of the Bolsa Familia or other things. It's, I think the focus is the lot of time of advertising in the involvement of the shirt of clubs, the name of the competitions. It's not the guy who have in a card, it is put 20 reais or 30 reais or 10 reais. How to control this? I think it's impossible.
I agree. Just one thing on what you said is you mentioned a lot of problems related to match manipulation, that cases that you heard of and everything, especially here in Brazil. In the last 2 years, we had a notice of more than 100 match manipulation cases in 2022 and another 100 and something in 2023. And still, we had a non-regulated market. So the point is not having a regulated market from now on. It doesn't mean that the problem will get worse or better. The thing is, we already have a problem related to match manipulation specifically, but the expectation with sport regulation is that at least we will be able to have more control over the bettors, over the betting market, since the betting operators will be having the commitment of being part of monitoring networks. So if in case they identify wrong situations, they are obligated to inform things that we didn't have until now and things that we don't have in an unregulated market. So this is something important to have in mind here. we expect that looking at the sports scenario, especially football, which is the sport with more match manipulation problems, we expect that we'll be able to have more control over the problem after we have a regulated market and all this commitment is taken. So this is an expectation. Of course, I'm not saying that regulating the betting market is the solution for sports integrity. No, but it's one of the things that we need to provide this kind of protection to sports. And just another thing, Iraj, is something that you said that 600 illegal betting bookmakers will be closed. Just we should bear in mind that until today, nobody is illegal in Brazil, because as I explained to you guys, we have an unregulated market. So we have a legal market and unregulated. So everybody's legal, or no one is illegal. Those starting from tomorrow, then the government established that those that did not apply, those will be considered illegal. So from tomorrow ahead, we'll have illegal betting operators in Brazil, but not today.
Well, we are just 1 minute before finishing. If there's any quick comment anybody wants to do in 1 minute, feel free to add. Andrea, Bruno didn't say anything. Bruno, please, you may do the closing if you want.
Everybody said so many not smart thoughts, but I think a complete view from all angles, the perspective towards the company, what is the reality here in Brazil. And I want to compliment Tiago for a great presentation that gives us a fair view of the benefit aspect of the regulation. We were in a round of John Doe, of João Ninguém, como se diz aqui no Brasil. And even though I agree with you, Viraj, that the sports should not, at least at this moment, have anything with the bets. I do believe with the regulation and the work that should be done in the next few years, we may have this discussion again in 5 to 6 years. We need to have a bet market that's stabilized, and obviously we have a health public issue. But I do believe that both of them have specific remedies. So I again compliment Tiago and thank you everybody for the presence. Back to you, Nathan.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bruno, our future country manager, has spoken. Thank you. Andrea, would you like to say some words? Andrea Figuer here is the first senior advisor meeting that he comes. Thank you.
Yes, I just I arrived very late. I just heard a little bit about, but this is a theme that is a huge impact in the last days because all the regulations coming, and like Tiago said, tomorrow will be the first day that the companies that apply will be solved. So we have to see the families who are gonna be involved with this. We know TV Globo just agreed with MGM to open a house of betting here. And I think I don't know if SBT, another network television here, or Bandeirantes, they also are in partnership with companies of betting and gambling. And this is a huge market. Brazil is a huge market in terms of numbers, in different metrics, is top 5 or top 3 or have a huge potential. So all the companies will be interested in explore this market. And in the end of the day, if this is entertainment business, the wallet of the client is the same wallet. So everybody is disputing a share of the wallet. So all the other industries are getting sad about this and will fight and will be lobby against the betting industry, of course.
Thank you. Thank you,
Exactly.
Tiago. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, those of you that will watch it later asynchronously at home. But, Tiago, really, muito obrigado por estar aqui. Thank you very much for your time. It was a great presentation, and we learned a lot, and I think we raised the discussion we had to raise in the company. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest. Good night. Thank you for being here.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Muito obrigado.
Valeu, Thiago. Obrigadão.
Obrigado, Thiago.
Obrigado, Thiago. Até mais,
Até
pessoal.
mais. Valeu, pessoal.